Hello! Good evening! It's the night before our final presentation is due for the producers module. Ah! So I'm a bit nervous this evening. But I thought that to do something different, I would do a vlog post. I've never done one of these before, so we're going to see how it goes. It sounds like a lot of fun. Now, I've spoken in my actual blog posts, the written ones, so far about up to the filming. So what came after the filming was the editing. Kirsty and I went to Erin's editing classes, in which we had to use Final Cut Pro on the Apple Macs in the editing suite. This was a bit of a disaster. Neither of us had ever used an Apple Mac before, so we were both kind of sat there going, Mac! No! What is it? What does it do? Help! Erin, how do you right-click on this thing? Apple Macs. Bane of my existence. After we'd finished the filming, Kirsty and I were the only two that were free because Nicole and Reese had to go home to work, and Natalia, bless her, was ill. So Kirsty and I went and sat down and went through all of the footage that we had and put together a list of the shot numbers in the order that we suspected they would go, which saved us a huge amount of time the next day when everybody was together and we were sort of putting it all into a rough cut. It was very exciting. The thing was, though, after we'd done this big long list, we decided we'd get a start on the editing, going up into the editing suite. However, when we got there, we had a bit of a problem, because it turned out that when you use the Macs, you're supposed to download everything straight from the camera onto the Macs. We hadn't done that. We'd copied the footage onto Kirsty's laptop so that we could delete it off the camera, so we wouldn't have to use it again. So this meant that we couldn't use Final Cut Pro. It turned out alright in the end because Kirsty's wonderful, amazing boyfriend knows how to use Adobe Editor. So he downloaded that onto Kirsty's laptop, and we got to use that instead. Hooray! So Kirsty, thus, was kind of in charge of editing, really, which I think worked out quite well, because it turned out, the people who were good at writing at the beginning were looking after that stage of it, and the people who were good at the editing were looking after that stage of it. So once we got the visuals sorted, we needed to do the audio. Now, as you remember, our film is a video to poetry. And when we were doing our editing sessions, we got taught how to record straight onto Final Cut Pro on the Macs with microphone. We thought this was going to be easy. We took the microphone up to the editing suite. We couldn't get it to work on Final Cut Pro. Thankfully, we had Reese, who's an amazing technical man, who has experience with other audio software. So we used that instead. We went to work on the 5th floor the next day, squashed into this tiny little room, all 5 of us, into this little box. It was brilliant. So, turns out that acting for voiceovers is actually a very different skill than acting in front of a camera. Who knew? It's really hard. I found it really difficult. A lot of fun. Nicole had done it before, and I think Reese as well. And Natalia had done radio work before as well, so she knew she was doing too. The soundtrack is the other important part of audio for a film. We had a bit of an epic saga with the soundtrack. Good grief. I said I'd got a friend on the music course who might be interested in doing something for us because she wants to do film music as a career. So I asked her. she wanted the rough cut. Fair enough. We didn't have a rough cut yet because we hadn't started filming at this point. Went on a bit, turned out she couldn't do it. So I had another poke around, found somebody else who also doing film music as a career. But by the time we got a rough cut put together for him, we didn't have a huge amount of time left. Oh no! So, Thursday before the deadline, I'd given it to him, the rough cut, the night before. He was able to get a sort of a minute sample to me, that I then gave to Kirsty before rushing off to do this conference that I had to do all afternoon. So I wasn't going to be there. I was really disappointed about this. So the others decided that we should have a backup plan, which was a very clever idea because we did only have a little bit of the soundtrack at this point. And we kind of needed the weekend free of editing to do things like presentations for the producers, all the uni work that we have to do, dealing with life. And I think it was Natalia found a Beethoven piece for it. We did have a little bit of a drama over the weekend in that we wondered if the whole thing was kind of unintentionally hilarious. But we kind of figured, we're managers. If it's unintentionally hilarious, it's because we're not camera people. We're not actors, and if we are, we've not done it in a while. Not all of us are writers, and none of us have ever done editing before. There are 4 stages of group development: forming, storming, norming, performing. I kind of wondered if we'd ever left the storming stage this weekend, because there was quite a bit of conflict that we kind of didn't really get resolved. Because I wasn't there on Thursday, I got really confused, and we had a bit of a breakdown in communication, and I wasn't sure what was going on with the music. So, people couldn't decide what was going on, me neither. And, yeah, it was all a little bit crazy. So, am I pleased with the whole thing in the end? I'm very pleased with us. I'm really pleased with us. I think we've done a really good job, actually, on a very ambitious project. It was probably a little overly ambitious. It was really nice to do something different. A short film, something that I don't know if anybody else is doing it. So it was really good because we put a lot of time and a lot of effort into it. But I didn't necessarily feel that all the time and effort that was put in paid off creatively. I don't know how the others feel about it, but this isn't necessarily a bad thing, because we're learning about working in groups, working with your friends, which turns out is actually quite difficult. Who knew? I think on top of that, I kind of had unrealistic expectations of what we could do with the time and resources that we had to complete the film. It was all a little bit stressful this weekend. But you know what? I had a lot of fun doing it. Learnt a huge amount. And I don't think, for the time and resources that we had, it's a bad film at all. I think we put together something that was cohesive, and worked really well as it is. Whether it's a good piece of art or not is entirely subjective. So what did I learn? Well, I learnt that it's probably sensible to remember all your lectures from year 1, because if you don't, then you will forget that if you film in a public space, you have to get a licence from the council, and we forgot. Conflict is necessary. Conflict's really important. Don't bottle up your feelings. It leads to stress and anger and bitterness, and that's bad. Cameras are really, really difficult to work. Who knew cameras were so difficult to work? I'm not actually as good a team player as I thought I was. Little bit of a tendency to kind of hog creatively. necessarily listening to people all of the time. Um, yeah. Eh. Having roles is actually probably a really good idea. I actually really, really enjoyed working on all of the different bits. I think it was probably a really good idea for our group because everybody wanted to work on everything. But having said that, we ended up with a little bit of a lack of focus in some places. Uh, at the end, when we had Kirsty focusing on the editing and saying, right, you know, this is the way that we need to go with this, it worked really well because even though we were all kind of helping, we had somebody as a leader. Scheduling is super important. Do lots of scheduling. Make sure that everybody's schedules fit. Making sure that everybody has the time to do things is actually really difficult. Uh, Everybody ended up missing a bit, I think, whether it was down to work or meetings or conferences or illness. Kirsty, bless her, came in when she was ill. That was amazing. Ask for help when you need it. That's really important. Don't just struggle along on your own. Talk to people. Your parents, your friends, your family. Your parents are your family. No, definitely ask for help. It's a really good idea because otherwise you just end up struggling along. So, the presentation tomorrow. That's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna go okay. I hope so. I'm more worried about the showing. I think I'm very much looking forward to seeing everybody else's stuff. I think it's going to be a lot of fun sharing it all. I hope it goes all well. I'm sure it's going to look excellent. Actually, we've put a lot of effort into it, so I really hope tomorrow is going to pay off. The blog. I've not really enjoyed blogging. No, that's a lie. I've enjoyed the blogging, I've just not been very good at it. It's a skill that requires a lot of organisation. In that, when you've written something and you decide to leave it till the next day to proofread, you then need to proofread and post it, rather than just writing it and then writing another one. I did that quite a bit. It's not a good idea. Don't do that. Vlogs are fun though. Difficult. And so, on that note, I wish everybody the best of luck tomorrow. I hope it goes extremely well. Cross fingers. And yeah. Action.